Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Sam here to break down the Xfinity Series race for you on Saturday at Kansas Motor Speedway. This is the third of four races at this track this weekend. We have one Cup Series race on Thursday, a Truck Series race on Friday, and then Xfinity and Truck Series race on Saturday. No NASCAR race on Sunday, so I'm getting these videos out kind of early for that. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, turn on notification bells. All those things really help me grow the channel, and we've been growing pretty well recently, so everything's been going pretty well as of late, and I just want to keep growing the channel, so make sure to hit that subscribe. If you want more of my content, I have a Patreon, which I'll put in the description below, which is only $10 a month for the cheat sheets, along with my projections. I write up an article every week as well. I give out my tiers and salary rankings, and I give out my cash core for all three series. It's only $10 a month. I mean, per race, it's really cheap, honestly. It's only like 25-50 cents a race, depending on how many each month we have. So make sure to check all that out. If you want to follow me on social media, my Twitter is at DFSNateLane, and my Instagram is at @NateLane_. Very active over there, talking about just sports in general, giving my thoughts on DFS, sports, fantasy football, all those things. If you want to get involved in that, make sure to check that out. So yeah, let's get into driver by driver. All right, so we're at Kansas Motor Speedway this week. This is another 1.5 mile track, just like the last 2 weeks, Kentucky and Texas. So a lot of similarities, honestly. I mean, it's going to be a similar pit place that we want for Dominator. So we're going to start out right at the top with Austin Cindric. DraftKings finally priced him up. I mean, he won the last two Xfinity race, or he won the 2 races at Kentucky, and then he really finished second, but Kyle Busch got disqualified, so he got credited with the win, but still the best Xfinity regular in all 3 of those tracks, highest finish out of all of them. So yeah, Austin Cindric looks great. Starts 4th. I don't think he's going to get out to a lead like immediately or anything, but I think a few laps in, he could totally take it over. I mean, he wrecked out a Kansas race last year, so we don't really have data for that, but he does have the 5th best average finish at intermediates and the 4th best at large ovals over the last 2 years. But that's really not what's important this year. The last 5 races, Austin Cindric has just been on fire. 2.25 average finish, 5.8 running average position, and 247 laps led. And all those laps led are all at 3 tracks that are 3 races that are all really similar to this track. So I just expect Cindric. I mean, I expect him to be super high owned, super popular again, just because of how many laps he's led, how well he's been running. I don't know if he'll lead every single lap, but a good bit of laps for sure is in the cards for Austin Cindric. It's my favorite play on the slate. Favorite Dominator play. I just don't see any reason to not want to play him. He's just been, lights out. I mean, even if you look at intermediate tracks over the last 2 years, which includes this year, I mean, he just is 505, which is the most, only second to Justin Allgaier, or first and second place is Justin Allgaier, which is close, 484. But those 505, I mean, 247 of those are in the last 2 weeks. So, he's just been absolutely on fire. I just expect Austin Cindric to just lead a bunch of laps again. He's my top Dominator play. I mean, if you're making one line, I'm playing starting with Austin Cindric and figuring the rest out. So yeah, that's what I got to say about him. Next we have Chase Briscoe at 10,900, starting 6th. I think Briscoe's a good play. It's just Briscoe's always everyone always wants to play Chase Briscoe because he has been the best driver in the Xfinity Series this year. But the finishing position doesn't necessarily mean he's the best play. I mean, he's 10,900, but he's only led in the last 5 races 76 laps, something like that. 76 laps, which is only the 4th most. So he's not necessarily a guy that I'm just absolutely in love with playing here. I mean, yeah, he has ran well. He has an average finish of 2.2. He actually has a little bit better of an average finish and average position than Austin Cindric in the last 5 races. But Briscoe, I mean, just the lap sled is just not there compared to the other guys. So I think he's a good play. I expect him to finish in the top 4 like he does every single race. I mean, he could even win the thing, but I just don't expect him to lead a ton of laps. I do think he is a solid play, though. It's just there's other Dominator plays, which are really the next 2 guys, and one more down a little farther. Those are the guys that I really, really want to play. Justin Allgaier, starting 11th at 10,600. He's going to offer you place differential and some lap lead upside. He has the 5th best average finish at Kansas, 2nd best average finish at intermediates, and the 3rd best at large ovals. He has the 3rd best average position at Kansas, 3rd best at intermediates, and 4th best at large ovals. So he's going to run well. When it comes to laps led, he has the 2nd most laps led in the last few years at 484 intermediates, and he also has 174 at the large ovals themselves. When it comes to the last 5 races, yeah, Allgaier hasn't been finishing well this year. He just still hasn't gotten that win. Only an average finish at 8.4, but he does have 109 laps led in the last 5 races, with the majority of those coming last week at Texas. He did lead a good bit of laps at that race, ended up not winning it. I think he ended up finishing 7th or something like that. But he would have been like second or third if he didn't have a penalty that really cost him big. So I think Allgaier isn't. I mean, he's got some place differential upside, and he definitely has some upside to lead laps. I think he is a good play as well. Next, we have Noah Gragson starting 10th at 10,300. In his only race at Kansas in the Xfinity Series, he had a 13th place finish. But if we remember 2 years ago in a Truck Series, Noah Gragson beat Kyle Busch at Kansas and got a win there. So he's run well here in the past. He does have the 4th best average finish at intermediates and the 5th best at large ovals, 4th best average position at Kansas, 4th best at intermediates, and 5th best at large ovals. When it comes to lap sled, Noah Gragson has 378 laps led at intermediate tracks. We saw him lead a ton of laps at the first Kentucky race a few weeks ago, but that was when he was starting on the pole. Honestly, for the most part, Noah Gragson's races where he's led a ton of laps have come from the pole and Miami, where he's just amazing at. So I don't really know if I expect him to really get up front and lead a bunch of laps. I would say he's less likely to lead laps than Allgaier and Cindric for sure, but he definitely has an upside because he's been really fast all year. He's always going to be a threat for a win every single race. In the last 5 races, he does have 132 laps led, but I would probably say like 90-95% of those laps led were at one race in Kentucky where he started on the pole. But yeah, Gragson's been running well. He starts 10th, offers you some place differential upside along with some lap led upside. Ross Chastain at 10,000, just really not interested in him. He's not in a prime spot to lead laps early. Not really too great at this track or any of these types of tracks. 9th best average finish at Kansas, 10th best at intermediates, 9th best at large ovals. So yeah, just nothing like too special for him. When we come in looking at the last 5 races, he does have an average finish of 5 and an average position of 7.2, but only 39 laps led scares me, and at that salary, you're going to need someone to lead laps for that price. Same thing with Harrison Burton. Harrison Burton, I think, is more likely to lead laps than Chastain, but still a lot less likely than Gragson, Allgaier, Briscoe, and Cindric. Does have the 2nd best average finish at intermediate tracks and 2nd best at large ovals and 2nd best average position at intermediates and large ovals as well. So yeah, I mean, Burton's good here. I expect a really good finish from him, but if you look at only 74 laps led at the intermediate tracks, and just compared to all these guys, even Chastain over the last 2 years, it's just so much less. And I know this is his first full year racing, but I mean, that includes this year, and they've done a bunch of intermediate tracks this year, and he really just hasn't led a ton of laps. I do expect him to be up competing for a win at the end of the race, but he hasn't like necessarily been running so great recently either. An average finish of 14th in the last 5 races and an average running position at 8th. So, I mean, he's been good, but I think he might be like a sneaky little play here, but he's just not someone I'm like prioritizing this week. I would prioritize those top 4 way more, and then we'll get to Brandon Jones as well. Jeremy Clements, though, at 9,600, he gets more and more expensive every single weekend. I mean, because he continues to start farther back, but man, I am not interested in that. I mean, yeah, he has an 8th place finish here last year. But, I mean, this year, he in his last 5 races, I mean, he's been running well. An average finish of 10.2, an average position of 11.8. But, like, you need more than that at 9,600 to pay that off. Especially, like, just with all the laps led that are up for grabs this week in fast laps, Jeremy Clements just does not, like, show it off to me. If he was 1,000 cheaper, then yeah, that's something I'd want to play. But at 9,600, man, I mean, he's going to need like a top 6 or 7 really to really pay that off. It's too expensive. I'm not going to be looking there this week. All right, Brandon Jones is an interesting one. He won this race last year, or at Kansas last year. I don't know if it was this race or the later Kansas one. I think it was the later Kansas one. But anyway, he won at Kansas last year, so he has the best average finish here. He only led 10 laps, though, so that scares me a little bit. He wasn't really a dominator, but was able to get it done at the end of the race. But he does have 198 laps led at intermediate tracks and 142 at large ovals. So these are tracks that he excels at, and he starts 2nd. So that's really what I like about Brandon Jones. I mean, if you've been watching the Xfinity Series the last few weeks, man, Brandon Jones has been like trash. He's just been having bad luck. Wreck, race after race after race, just wrecking out, it seems like, not leading any laps. He's been bad, but he is in a Gibbs car. He has been fast. He's shown speed before he wrecked. I mean, like, some of those races he wrecked on, like, the first lap, so we didn't even get to see what he looked like those races. But, yeah, I mean, I think Brandon Jones is in a good position to lead a bunch of laps early. I mean, he starts on the outside of Michael Annett, who I just don't, and Kaz Grala is in 3rd. I just don't expect those guys to lead. I mean, I think Brandon Jones should be able to pass him on the first lap. The problem is Cindric starts 4th. And if Cindric gets up there even really, really quick, it could go bad for Brandon Jones. But I do think, like, there's definitely potential for Brandon Jones to lead, like, the first 10 to 20 laps. And then at that point, he can end up paying off your salary if he finishes inside the top 5. And, I mean, he could have more throughout the day as well. I mean, we know he's in a fast car, and we know he knows how to race here. And, I mean, I don't know, this probably doesn't affect much, but he is going to run a truck race before all these other drivers get in one of these cars. He's going to have to run a whole race in it, but that didn't work at Pocono clearly, but 9,400 Brandon Jones starting second. I think he might get a little bit of ownership, but I don't think he's like the best play. And I'm definitely more interested in playing the top 4 as well. But I think Brandon Jones could be a cheap dominator that could pay off. I'll probably play him a little bit. Myatt Snyder starting 33rd though at 9,200. I do like. He's in the 93 car again, so it's not in the 21 super fast car. But it doesn't matter. The last 5 races, an average finish of 11.66 without DNFs and an average position of 14. So I do like that. Starting 33rd, if he can get a top 15, he's going to pay off that salary huge. He'll probably be pretty chalky, but he's someone I definitely like to go to on the slate. See, that's the difference between him and Clements. Like, he's 400 cheaper than Clements, but he starts 33rd versus Clements starting 17th. It just doesn't make any sense. Next, we have Justin Haley at 9,000. I think Haley's interesting. He's not someone who's going to lead a bunch of laps, but, he always somehow ends up in the top 5 in these races. 6th best average finish at Kansas, 8th at intermediates, and 6th at large ovals. When we go to the last 5 races, Haley's been running well. He has an average finish of 8.8 and an average position of 9.8. It's just, how high we really need Justin Haley to get 4th or higher, probably, to pay that off, and I just don't see that happening. It could happen. That is his ceiling, but it's less likely in my opinion. Daniel Hemrick, though, at 8,800, I do like. And the reason there's more than one reason to like Daniel Hemrick. He does have the 2nd best average finish at Kansas, the best at average finish at intermediates and large ovals, but his teammates have just been so fast and so good. Allgaier and Gragson and Hemrick are all on the same team, by the way, if you didn't know that. I just think he has that upside, and Hemrick still needs that first win, and you see these best average finish numbers, he's going to finish well as long as he doesn't wreck out. So I do like Hemrick. The last 5 races, only an average finish of 9 and an average position of 11. I think that's only 2 of them, and I think he did wreck out, so that's unfortunate, but I think Hemrick's a good play that no one's really going to look to, but he's run so well with these tracks. I definitely am looking to play Daniel Hemrick once again. But yeah, I think he's a solid option here. Up next we have Riley Herbst starting 8th place at 8,600. I'm not interested in Herbst starting 8th. He's just, he'll probably run pretty decently. Last 5 races, Herbst has been running pretty solidly. Average finish is 7, average position at 10.75, but I just don't expect Riley Herbst to really get up through the field and do anything. Alex LeBay, 8,500, starting 19th. It's interesting, he does have an average finish of 13.5 at Kansas, which is pretty good and a lot much better than his averages at intermediates and large ovals. See 21st ranks there. But LeBay, he's done well at this track. It's just him this year, average finish of 21 and average position of 22.4 in the last 5 is not something I really want to chase after. So Alex LeBay is not really someone I'm really looking to go to. Brett Moffitt, though, 8,300, starting 23rd. I do like a lot, actually. Intermediates is the 12th best average finish and a 12th best large ovals as well. 13th best average position at intermediates and 14th best at large ovals. When we go into the last 5 races, he has an average finish of 12.75 and average position of 16. So yeah, Brett Moffitt, should be able to get you a top 12, and he could get somewhere between 7 and 12, and that's going to be a huge payoff at that 8,300 salary. I like him a lot better than LeBay, Herbst, and Tommy Joe Martins as well. It starts too high. Past 2 weeks, Tommy Joe Martins has done very well, but he's been starting in the deep 30s. Now he's starting 28th, and he's 8,100. I've missed on Tommy Joe Martins the last few weeks, but I'm not. Average still in the last 5 races, an average finish of 24.33 and an average position of 22. But that's he was doing so well because he was starting 36. Now he's starting 28th, and I'm just not really looking to go there. Michael Annett, 7,900, starting on the pole. I wonder if people are going to go here. He is a cheap dominator. But is he really going to dominate? I think Brandon Jones is going to pass him on the first lap, and then Cindric's going to pass him that too. That's going to run well here. He has the 4th best average finish. But you look at laps led here the last few years, he does have 3 at Kansas, but only 56 at the intermediates and 55 at large ovals. And that's over a big sample size. Harrison Burton has more, and it's a way less sample size than Michael Annett. So it's just not something I'm really looking to go to. Now, he could lead the early portion of the race, but I just expect him to get past early. He's going to have a good run. He'll probably finish in the top 8 like he has all year. He's been running very consistent, good finishes this year, but we need him to lead laps on the pole because he's going to inevitably drop positions. So, not someone I'm just really excited to go to. Same thing with Kaz Grala. When I saw his racing in the 21 car, I was like, oh great, they're going to price him down, which they did pretty solidly, price him down. But then he drew the 3rd starting spot, and I was like, oh, I don't know, man. We haven't seen Kaz Grala in an Xfinity car in over a year, and his numbers are decent at this track and these types of tracks, but he starts third. There's no real way for him to go up. I was expecting like a top 10 to 15 from him in this race, and starting third, you just can't do anything about that. Colin Garrett starting 37th at 7,600. That's a scary one because it's Colin Garrett and he's 7,600, but he starts 37th, and I'm pretty sure that's last. Is it last? Yeah, it's dead last. So, like, it's a fine play. I mean, we only really have data for intermediate tracks for him, where he does have the 25th best average finish. I don't even think he's run in the last 5 races, but he's run decently this year. He'll probably get you between like 20th and 25th, somewhere in that range. And at 37th or at 7,600, it's just a little bit thin, man. Just not something I want to go to. Ryan Vargas, like, I have no data on Ryan Vargas except for his one run at Pocono a few weeks ago, where he finished 13th. But he wasn't running there the whole race. That was a wreck fest and just was like a disaster. So, he's okay. I'd rather play Vargas, I think, than Garrett, because I think Vargas has more likelihood to finish higher. But they're both a little overpriced in my opinion, and there's some value down here that we can find that I don't think we're going to need to get to them. But if you want to find a way to plug in Garrett and Vargas in your lineups, I think they're fine. Bailey Curry starting 27th, definitely not playing him. Same with Timmy Hill at 21st. Timmy Hill, if he was cheaper, that'd be fine. Average finish of 18.4 in the last 5 and average position of 20.8. Just not a lot of room to go up, but he's 7,100. Brandon Brown starting 22nd is interesting though at 7,000. He always finds a way to like hang around the top 10 to 12, and that's what I like. I like to hear that. An average finish of 11.66, an average position of 15.75 in the last 5 races. So Brandon Brown looks fine to me. I don't expect him to really finish that high, but if he can get you a 10 to 13th place finish, that'll pay off that salary pretty well, and that's what we should be looking at for him. Josh Williams starting 24th for 6,800. Definitely not as intrigued by him, but he's a decent play. He only has an average finish of 21.5 in the last 5 races though, so it's a little scary, but he does have some upside. Ryan Sieg starts 16th, and I'm just really not interested in really going to him either. In the last 5 races, has an average finish of 17 and an average position of 13.5, which is decent. He seems to find a way to run around the top 10 most of the race, but just something happens at the end that makes him fall back. He is 6,600. It's just the speed has not looked there for him, and I just expect him to really finish somewhere between 10 and 16, and it's really not paying it off that well. If he gets inside the top 10, he is going to be a good play though. I think he's okay. It's just nothing I'm really excited to get to. Vinny Miller, 6,400 starting 36. Well, see, DraftKings, that's what I'm saying. Like I said that in the truck video, they really aggressively priced the Truck Series and Xfinity Series this week. There is some tough pricing to get around. The value's hard to find. And now you have Vinny Miller, who's been averaging a 25th, 26th place finish, and has been a guy that's, priced towards the very, very bottom. Now he's priced at 6,400. So, I just don't really want to play that. I think he's okay, though. You do need to find some value, and it is value. That is value. Him and Graf, we'll get into Graf. I think they're both okay. I'd rather play Graf for sure, though. 6,200, starting 34th. Last 5 races, average finish at 19th, average position at 23.5. I expect he's going to get some decent ownership. I'm interested in Graf more than I am Vinny Miller, but they're both, okay plays just because you need to find value. Chad Fincham starts 31st, and again, another guy that could offer you some value. I'd still rather play Joe Graf. Fincham has an average finish of 25.4 in the last 5 races, an average position of 28th in the last 5 races. So yeah, that one's a little bit. I'd rather, if I'm ranking these 3, I'm going Graf, Fincham than Miller. No, actually, I'm going Graf, Miller, Fincham because Miller does start 36. He's not that much more expensive than Fincham, right? Yeah, only 300. So, but Kyle Weatherman at 5,900 starting 35th is someone who has piqued my interest a good bit. Weatherman's been running Weatherman runs for Mike Harmon Racing, and when they run well, they run well. He finished 8th in one of the Kentucky races, but before that he had a few top 15s, and then the other races he had mechanical. Well, we wrecked out one, and then last week mechanical issues, which has been a problem for Kyle Weatherman all year. So when they don't have mechanical issues, he's a really good play, but the problem is that's been somewhat of an issue this year. But in the last 5 races without the DNFs, an average finish is 16.75. If you can get a 16th place, which I doubt is going to happen, but what we're really looking for from Kyle Weatherman is an 18th to 23rd. And in any of those positions is going to be very, very good, and I think that's something that Kyle Weatherman can definitely do. I like Weatherman better than Graf, Miller, and Fincham, but I do like him a good bit. Now, Cody Vanderbilt always wrecks. We always say that. I'm not talking about him. Now, this guy, Jairo Avila Jr., never heard of him until this week, so that was fun having to do some research on him. Um, well, he starts 26, and he races racing for BJ McLeod's team. So he's not in a like horrible car. And this is the car he ran last year when he did races. So he has an average. He finished 18th in Kansas last year. He has an average finish of 23.66 at the intermediates and 18 at the large ovals. Like he's run pretty solidly at these tracks. Um, so starting 26, if he can, I mean, he's only 5,300. If he can get you a top 20, that's going to be something that's very valuable, and I think it's very realistic too. Even if he just like gets like a top 21, 22, that's something that's very possible. Usually when you get these guys down here, they don't have that upside to get that as high a position, but that's someone that is definitely very interesting. Jesse Little also starting 14 at 5,200 is not terrible. Like they were aggressive with their pricing for a lot of these guys, but like Little and McLeod, neither of them got priced up at all, even just a little bit. So yeah, Jesse Little, last 5 races, average finish of 14.2, average position of 16.8. I think he has to move up like 1 or 2 spots to really pay off that salary, but that's possible. And I don't like, it's just you have to get these value guys, and you got to look at what's their ceiling. Can they hit that? Like, yeah, and Jesse Little's someone who can hit that ceiling. Same with Jairo Avila Jr. can hit that ceiling. Stephen Like, we never play him. Jeffrey Earnhardt starts too high for me, starting 13th, and David Starr definitely starts too high. But like, look in the last 5 races for both these guys, an average finish of 15.66 for Earnhardt and then 14th last week for David Starr. I mean, they can hang around those spots, but I'd rather just play Little for a little more expensive, starting 14th. They're all on the same team. I guess they all have that potential. But feel like Jesse Little's just maybe the more talented one. I actually do think Earnhardt's okay. I just don't like that he's been losing spots this year. And then I'm not going to talk about Dexter Bean. Don't play him. But BJ McLeod at 4,600 starting 20th is like, I mean, if you really need value, yeah, go down there to BJ McLeod. I hate always playing BJ McLeod, but it's just always somehow find my way playing him. Average finish of 20.4 in the last 5 races, an average position of 21.2, and he has potential to get like you a 17th or 18th spot, which could end up actually making the optimal because of that. But if he just hangs around 20th, he's going to be fine. So that's really all I got to say on all these drivers for the Xfinity Series race. Hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, hit that subscribe, turn on notification bell, follow me on social media. If you want to subscribe to my Patreon, I'll put all that in the description, the link below. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you guys win some money.